Good?
I think I'm okay.
One line.
Yeah. Okay, hide it. Just hide it somewhere. Okay. Okay. Thanks. Nate. I'm going to try to.
Good
Sorry.
evening and welcome to the 544th episode of Travel It's Radio. I'm Dan Schlossberg along with Roger Noriega, and we're in the 13th season of Travel It's Radio, the show that lets you enjoy the pleasures of travel from the comfort of your armchair. Every week at this time, Roger, you take it.
Every week at this time, we talk to people representing destinations, hotels, airlines, railroads, car rental companies, and others in the world of travel and hospitality, from authors and bloggers to broadcasters and publicists. If it's got anything to do with travel, it's got everything to do with Travel It's Radio.
Our guest tonight is Gary Hahn, Vice President of Marketing and Communications at the National Comedy Center in Jamestown, New York, hometown of Lucille Ball. Gary, welcome to Travel It's Radio.
Thank you so much, guys. I'm sorry. I'm just finessing my camera here a little bit, but I think we're good. All right.
We just thought it was another aftershock from the earthquake we had. Okay, Norman Cousins, editor of the Saturday Evening Post, was once diagnosed with a fatal disease. Told there was nothing more that doctors could do, he decided to lash himself back to good health, and it worked. So am I correct in saying the mission of the National Comedy Center is to make people laugh loud and long, taking their minds off the troubled state of the world today?
Yes, well, that's certainly a major part of it, Dan. We are the nation's official cultural institution for comedy, as designated by the United States Congress. Our mission is actually to celebrate this country's comedy heritage and to preserve it for generations to come. But through that mission, what you said is exactly true. Visitors who come here in Jamestown, New York, are laughing all day long. So it's one of the most unique museums you could ever possibly visit. Incredibly interactive, lots of fun. And so through our mission, we welcome thousands and thousands of visitors each year who just spend a day laughing. So.
Okay, well, when did it open and why is it in Jamestown?
Well, we opened in August of 2018. So we've been around for about 5.5 years now. Jamestown is Lucille Ball's hometown. So we're very proud of that. We're proud to be the birthplace of the First Lady of Television. And we also have the Lucy Desi Museum just a few blocks away, which celebrates the pioneering role of I Love Lucy and how innovative and incredibly talented both Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz were. It was actually Lucy's vision to create this museum when the town leaders of Jamestown called Lucille in 1989 to say, we want to do a museum that celebrates you and your work. She was very flattered, but she said, I'd really prefer that you celebrate all of comedy, not just my work. But they opened the Lucy Desi Museum in 1996, and it took us another 20 plus years to open this museum, which is essentially the Cooperstown of comedy, the Rock Hall of comedy. So it was all based on Lucy's vision, and Jamestown is far western New York. We're about 90 miles from Buffalo, but worth the drive from wherever you may live.
What is unique about the National Comedy Center, Gary? What makes it so special?
Well, great question. So what is unique about the Comedy Center is, first of all, how state-of-the-art, how interactive it is. You'll see I have some exhibits behind me. The one with all the video screens is called Ham It Up, and we show you how to make facial expressions much like comedic artists through history. But it's just one example of how interactive this museum is. It starts with creating your sense of humor profile. And you do that in the lobby, and you tell us the comedians and the TV shows, the movies that you like, and you get what's called a laugh band, a bracelet on your wrist that has an RFID chip. And then as you walk through the museum, you scan that laugh band through various exhibits, and it will serve you content based on the kind of comedy that you like most. So this is an incredibly personalized experience based on the comedy that you tell us you like. And there's just so much interactivity, whether it's the stand-up lounge, where as you scan in your laugh band, we will serve stand-up to you based on your comedy taste. We have something called the Comedy Continuum, which is a 60-foot video wall that is essentially the 6 degrees of separation between comedians, showing their influences and collaborations. So you're creating these web of influences on this video wall, which is also a lot of fun. We have comedy karaoke, where you can get on stage, just like music karaoke, you can get on stage and you can choose some of the greatest stand-up routines of all time and perform them for friends and family. We have green screen experiences where you can put yourself inside classic TV and movie scenes, which is a lot of fun, whether it's a scene, the Sweaty Ball sketch from SNL, or the Chocolate Factory scene from I Love Lucy, and literally put yourself in these scenes. So people are amazed at how interactive and immersive this museum is.
Well, you mentioned your 2 museums and one with the Lucy Museum as well. And I've seen your Lucille Ball tribute artist, and must admit I was very impressed. She looked and sounded like the real deal.
Yes, we bring her to, we do a festival every summer, the Lucille Ball Comedy Festival, which is great for Lucy fans, but also for any fans of comedy, because we showcase rising stand-ups and some of comedy's biggest stars. Last year, we featured Taylor Tomlinson, who now has a CBS late night show, and Gabe Fluffy Iglesias. But we also have our Lucy and Ethel tribute artists walking around Jamestown, greeting people, taking photos with people, and they do their own live shows here as well. So the festival is partly for Lucy fans and partly for any fans of comedy, and we bring people from over 40 states every year, every August. So check our website, comedycenter.org, as we announce our headliners for that festival coming up this August. It's always a fun time.
We're talking with Gary Hahn of the National Comedy Center.
You have a George Carlin archive, a Carl Reiner archive, Joan Rivers archive, a Don Rickles archive, the Betty White collection, and a George and Jolene Schlatter Theater named for the creator of Laugh-In. How do you have space to fit it all in?
Well, great question. Yeah, we digitize everything. We believe our philosophy in the archives department is to make everything accessible to the public. So you may not see individual pieces of paper for Carl Reiner and Lenny Bruce and George Carlin, but we have digitized it all. So we have kiosks where you can do a deep dive into, for instance, we have digitized over 20,000 handwritten joke notes from George Carlin that you can be exploring in the George Carlin exhibit. And similarly with Carl Reiner, who, as most people know, is the creator of the Dick Van Dyke Show and did 4 amazing movies with Steve Martin, and of course did The 2,000-Year-Old Man and had just a wonderful 70-year friendship with Mel Brooks, and got his start and met Mel on your Show of Shows with Sid Caesar. So again, we kind of digitize everything. We use the latest technology so that we don't have to have all those artifacts in the museum itself, but you can be calling them up on interactive kiosks as you walk through the museum.
Wow, sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Now, we may have asked this already, but there's who's behind this? Who created the National Comedy Center? I have to ask, how far back does it go? And I'd like to know if Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, and Harold Lloyd are here, or just more recent comedy giants like Johnny Carson and Jerry
Yeah,
Seinfeld.
no, we go back all the way. So we have in various exhibits, whether it's our movie house, which is just to my right, uh, or our virtual writer's desk, where you can dig into various everything from Mark Twain all the way up to the silent era. We really do feature quite a few of early, the entire 20th century of comedy, and of course into the 21st century. So it's not just the modern recent folks, it's everybody. With regard to who created this,
Thank you.
this the folks that ran the Lucy Desi Museum realized that there was a need for this here in Jamestown, and that there's a need for this in the country. And so the planning began really probably about 2011, 2012, as a way to broaden the mission of the Lucy Desi Museum. And that's our executive director, Journey Gunderson, with various artists, including Amy Poehler there.
Yes.
We have an advisory board that includes Amy and Jim Gaffigan and Tiffany Haddish and all sorts of people. And so that advisory board, in addition to our board of directors, helps guide us and helps get the word out for the National Comedy Center.
I want to ask, is it only TV shows or movies as well?
It goes from stand-up to movies, TV shows, sketch comedy, improv comedy. We really, try to cover the gamut. Cartoons and animation. So we also have the Blue Room that I didn't mention yet. The Blue Room is in our basement, and it's a lower level, and it covers uncensored comedy. So there we do a deep dive into Lenny Bruce and George Carlin and Richard Pryor and the old Comedy Central and Friars Club roasts and the Dean Martin roasts. We have a Don Rickles exhibit there. And so we do a deep dive into George's 7 Dirty Words, etc. But our mission is to cover every form, every genre of comedy.
I know you mentioned the RFID tags that we were holding, but for the audience, what is an immersive exhibit? I understand that you have something called the Comedy Continuum.
Yep. Yes, the Continuum, I started to mention a little bit earlier. The Continuum is this 60-foot wall where you are touching the screen, and it is creating these connections between comedians. So it'll show how Jerry Seinfeld is connected to Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and how she's connected to Cloris Leachman. And it really is designed to show younger people how comedians they love today, who influenced them going back 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So it's a great way to kind of understand those connections. We see video of Jerry Seinfeld being introduced by Rodney Dangerfield at Dangerfield's Comedy Club from 40 years ago. And we see how all sorts of comedians really influence each other or are fans of each other. So that's always a very exciting part of the museum. And right next to the Comedy Continuum is what's called Prop Stars. And those are interactive prop tables. So if you put a prop on the table, and we kind of show the history of props from the arrow through the head to a sledgehammer to a pie in the face, etc. And if you put those props on the table, the table comes to life with video showing the use of that prop throughout comedy history. So it might show, for the rubber chicken, Groucho glasses, etc. And then all of a sudden you will see Looney Tunes cartoons or classic movies or Three Stooges that used that prop. And so kids really love that. We are incredibly family friendly as long as the Blue Room is kept for the adults. The main floor is really for all ages, and Prop Stars is one of those, just like comedy karaoke, that kids love to engage in.
I'm going to butcher this question, but is the vessel in the pestle? I think it's a Danny Cave. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
Is that prop there?
Yes.
I know I'm reaching. Sorry, Gary.
I don't know about the prop, but the film itself is certainly represented in the movie house. Yes.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Speaking of movies, do you have the Mel Brooks movie called Silent Movie, in
We
which
do,
Marcel?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's in the movie house, and that is represented a few different places. That's also in the comedy continuum. Yes.
Wow. How about the campfire scene of Blazing Saddles? Is it subject to censorship?
It's funny you mentioned that. Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We
No.
not only do we have that, we have something called Sounds Funny, which is right to my left, where you can add your own sound effects to that campfire scene. We teach you about the art of Foley,
Wow.
of Foley creating sound effects for movies and TV shows, and you can actually add your own sound effects to the campfire scene from Blazing Saddles. Yes.
Wow. I can imagine the creativity there. Would you
Yeah.
tell us about your Johnny Carson experience, please?
Yes, we have a full deep dive into Johnny Carson that we opened about a year and a half ago. It's in our theater. You're surrounded by 50 plus screens. It's hosted by Jimmy Fallon as a hologram, who takes you through Johnny's career at the Tonight Show. And it's really a deep dive into his guests, his monologue, his sketches, and his 30 years as the king of late night. And of course, showcasing how many comedians got their start on Johnny's Tonight Show. It was a rite of passage.
Yes.
I think Byron Allen, comedian and media mogul, said that comedians have two birthdays, the day they were born and the day they first made it onto Johnny's Tonight Show. So it's a wonderful 36-minute experience. And then we have, as you leave that theater, we have a portion of the original Rainbow Curtain from the Tonight Show that was used from 1970 to 1987 in beautiful downtown Burbank. We have some of Johnny's wardrobe as Floyd R. Turbo, and a few of his other characters. We have Bette Midler's dress that she wore as the final guest of Johnny's Tonight Show on May 21st, 1992. We have one of Doc's outfits. Doc Severinsen, the band leader, was known for very outrageous outfits. We have that too. And we have something that's really fun, which is we have the original Rolodex cards that were used in Johnny's office for calling up various guests. So, whether it's Don Rickles, Joan Rivers, Richard Pryor, and it, before computers, you're seeing these Rolodex cards with the dates that they appeared on the show, so that they knew when it was time to call them again to have them on. It has a little GH if it was a guest host, as opposed to Johnny as the host that night. And it was kind of a rudimentary but really fun system. And being able to see that here in the museum is a lot of fun too.
Oh, I bet.
I want to tell our viewers you're tuned to Travelwitch Radio, now in our 13th season with Dan Schlossberg and Roger Noriega. Check us out on iTunes, LinkedIn, Instagram, or the Travelwitch Radio Facebook page, among other places. And we're talking to Gary Hahn of the National Comedy Center. Gary, I've got to ask you, one of my favorite comedic experiences is the Gridiron Club, when the presidents become comedians. Do you have anything on that?
No, we do not. I mean, the Gridiron evenings there are no cameras there. So the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where the president usually appears as well, is usually taped by C-SPAN and shown. But we have a lot of things that represent political humor in general. So the museum is filled with things that represent, from Johnny, of course, and on and on. But the Gridiron has kind of always been off limits to media. So.
I thought Jay Leno was an equal opportunity insulter. He was great. You could not tell what party he was with because he would get everybody.
Yes, and he hosted the White House Correspondents' Dinner, or appeared as the comedic talent on multiple occasions. Yeah.
Okay, what about famous groups? Abbott and Costello, the Marx Brothers, Three Stooges, Stiller and Muir. I could go on forever.
All here, absolutely. I mean, those famous duos are so important to comedy. We're very proud to feature them in various exhibits, including the Continuum, as I mentioned, the Movie House. We have a TV room, which is a living room. Looks like a classic '60s living room that's playing clips from classic TV, from Your Show of Shows, and Jackie Gleason to The Office and The Big Bang Theory. But yes, all those comedy duos are very well represented here in this museum.
And musical comedy I'm thinking of too, because Jack Benny was one of my favorites. He loved to clown around with the violin. Victor Borge loved to clown around with the piano. Is there artistry on display at the center?
Yes, we have something called lyrical laughter, which is also right here. Actually, you can see it. You can see it. So in that lyrical laughter exhibit is everything from Weird Al to Victor Borge, by absolutely Mark Russell, who was an advisory board member that we were proud to have, and yes, so. Even more recent SNL music parodies are in that exhibit as well. But certainly, Victor Borge plays a prominent role in that.
You mentioned your advisory board. A number of top current comedians are on it. Louis Black, Amy Poehler, Lorraine Newman, among others. Do they actually provide good suggestions that have been implemented?
They do. Most of them have been here multiple times, and they do. They give us some insight, and they also help us spread the word. With their social media, and they've done interviews about us. But they do often give us a really good guidance. We want to make sure that we're not only a museum that appeals to the general public, but we want to make sure that the comedy community also believes in what we're doing, because we are preserving comedy's heritage. And so we look to them for advice on a regular basis, and they help us out a lot. They're all brilliant people and very accomplished people, and they have a lot to teach us.
We're talking to Gary Hahn of the National Comedy Center.
Gary, is the National Comedy Center open all year, including the long winter months? And and are there discounts for senior students and or military personnel? Sorry, Gary, I jumble my questions.
No, that's fine. Yes, we are open year round. We're closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays in the winter months. After Memorial Day, we open on Tuesdays as well. So we're open Thursdays through Tuesdays from Memorial Day to Labor Day, and then we're open 5 days a week in the winter months. And yes, we do offer discounts for students, for seniors, for veterans and active military. Everything is on our website at comedycenter.org. But we do like to make this as affordable as we can for everybody, because everybody's a fan of some sort of comedy, and we want them here.
Yes. Even though Lucy has her own separate museum, is she also included in the National Comedy Center? And can people get a dual admission ticket?
Yes, we offer dual admission at a discount. That's our most popular ticket. That's our best value. And yes, Lucy is throughout this museum, in addition to the Lucy Desi Museum. So we have her in the Comedy Continuum. We have her in our virtual writer's desk, where we play the scene of the famous scene with William Holden, where she kind of lights her nose on fire, one of the early, I think the first Hollywood episode of the 18 Hollywood episodes. And as I mentioned, our green screen experience, you can actually put yourself in, you can be Lucy and Ethel in the famous chocolate factory scene, which was at one point, not that long ago, named the funniest comedy scene of all time.
I cannot argue with that. Incredible humor by both of those two ladies. How much time should people allow to thoroughly enjoy both museums?
Well, this museum works whether you have an hour or whether you have 4 hours. But I would say what most people do is they spend 2.5 to 3 hours here in the National Comedy Center, and they probably spend an hour to an hour and a half in the Lucy Desi Museum. If you're a huge Lucy Desi fan, I Love Lucy fan the way I am, you'll probably want to spend about 2 hours at the Lucy Desi Museum. And what most people, they try to do it in, some do it in a day, and they'll have a nice lunch or dinner here in downtown Jamestown. And some people stay overnight for a day or two, and they do the Comedy Center on one day, and then the Lucy Desi Museum on another day. There's also a lot of other fun things to do here in Jamestown and throughout Chautauqua County, New York. So we're just the tip of the iceberg, but we love it when people come here and then do other things and stay in hotels and eat in our local restaurants.
Travelage Radio guests, we are listeners. Sorry, we are talking to Gary Hahn of the National Comedy Center.
Gary, the National Comedy Center was once called the best new museum in the country by USA Today. That probably still applies, doesn't it?
It really does. So we were proud of that. We were named that in February of 2020. So sadly, it was right before COVID and the world stopped. But yes, they named us the best new museum in the country. Time Magazine, in a few months before that, named us one of its world's greatest places, which was great. People Magazine had named us one of 100 Reasons to Love America. More recently, U.S. News and World Report named us a top 25 family weekend getaway in the country on a list that included Walt Disney World and Disneyland. So we were very proud of that as well.
Okay. Do most visitors arrive by automobile, or are there other ways such as train or plane?
Well, it's a lot of it is car. People make a pilgrimage here just the way they would make a pilgrimage to Cooperstown for the Baseball Hall of Fame. But we are pretty accessible by plane as well, particularly if you're not in driving distance. We're about 80 minutes from Buffalo Niagara International Airport. We're only 40 minutes from Erie and Erie, PA, and Erie has its own airport as well. And we're about a little over 2 hours from Pittsburgh and Cleveland.
What other attraction can visitors enjoy in the area? I know there are lunch cruises on the Chautauqua Belle steamboat.
Yes, there is a wonderful classic steamboat that goes on Chautauqua Lake, and Chautauqua Lake is just beautiful and not far from here at all. And that runs roughly from early May through October, and that's a wonderful experience. We're also very close to Chautauqua Institution. For those that are aware of the institution, which is celebrating its 150th season this summer. The institution is a living, learning, lifelong learning community. You can stay there. They've had U.S. presidents and Supreme Court justices speak there, and they also do wonderful concerts, ballet, opera, symphony orchestras, and pop culture concerts, everything from Wynton Marsalis and his jazz orchestra to all sorts of. Jay Leno has performed there. We've done comedy weeks with them, so that's a wonderful destination for the summer months. They do their summer season from late June through late August. And right here in Jamestown, we have some wonderful museums devoted to some other native sons. Robert H. Jackson was a Supreme Court justice and the head of the Nuremberg trials after World War II. And there's a museum devoted to him because he was born in Jamestown. A fascinating museum experience. And the Roger Tory Peterson Institute, Roger Tory Peterson created the Peterson Guides to Birds. And so that is a wonderful art museum devoted to nature art and art filled with animals, and it's just a gorgeous building and a gorgeous experience. And in the north part of the county along Lake Erie, which is only about 30 minutes from where I'm standing, just a wonderful Lake Erie wine country, one of the largest wine producing regions in this part of the country, and just over 20 wineries, and it's just kind of a fun experience as well to just go from winery to winery before or after you enjoy the comedy here in Jamestown.
We're talking to Gary Hahn of the National Comedy Center.
Would you tell us more about the Lucille Ball Comedy Festival coming up in August? Because I understand it features more than 50 live events over 4 days.
That's right. The festival, as I mentioned, it's always around Lucy's birthday. This year it's August 1st through 4th, and right here in Jamestown. We offer late night comedy in the Tropicana Room, which is our recreation of Ricky Ricardo's Tropicana Club from I Love Lucy. We have headlining acts in the arena right across the street from the Comedy Center. And we've had everyone in the past from Jerry Seinfeld to Jeff Foxworthy to Margaret Cho to Joan Rivers, many years ago, to the Smothers Brothers back then, and more recently John Mulaney and Sebastian Maniscalco and David Spade and Kevin Nealon. So we haven't announced this year's headliners yet, but that will happen within the next month or two, so stay tuned for that. And we also do kids comedy, family comedy. We have block parties with wonderful live bands before our headlining acts. And what we like to do is introduce rising stand-up comedians, not just names you've already heard of, but comedians that we've seen. Maybe they've been on the late night shows. You may not know their name yet, but we know that they're going to be big. And so we showcase those in our late night comedy and in our comedy showcase every year. So there's something for everybody, from kids and families to people that prefer more uncensored comedy, and big headliners to the newest comedians that we think are worth watching.
How exciting, Mr. Hahn. The idea of comedians is almost Johnny Carson-esque, because that's what he used to do. That is so cool.
Absolutely.
Is there, and sorry for interrupting, is there anything we haven't asked you that you would like to add?
Just that, I encourage people to go to our website. We have plenty of videos and pages that do a deep dive on our experiences. You can just go to comedycenter.org. We are a nonprofit cultural institution, so we do this to preserve comedy, to celebrate comedy, and we encourage everyone to make the trip. It is, whether you're in the car for 2 hours or 7 hours, it's absolutely worth the trip. You can combine it with the trip to Niagara Falls, which is only 80 minutes away. And it's just a lot of fun. I mean, when people walk out of here, they can't believe how good this is. And they usually say, I could have spent another day here. And they're just smiling and laughing. It brings families together in a wonderful way, because comedy is a real bonding thing that connects. And you won't regret it if you make the trip up. We encourage you to come.
Wow, what a wonderful elixir. Our guest tonight on Travel Edge Radio has been Gary Hahn of the National Comedy Center. Thank you for joining us, Gary.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Now the baseball season has started. This is prime time to place an advance order with Amazon for my new book, Home Run King, The Remarkable Record of Hank Aaron. Dusty Baker wrote the foreword. And let's not forget, last Monday, April 8th, was the 50th anniversary of Hank Aaron breaking the biggest record in sports, Babe Ruth's 714 home runs. And that's it for this edition of Travel Edge Radio. Now, this is Dan Schlossberg along with Roger Noriega saying thank you for your time this time. Until next time, next week, same time, same place, we'll talk to Hannah Choate of Intrepid Travel. For now, good night and stay safe.